If you only watch one video today, let it be this one. Because right now, in this very moment, you're standing at a crossroads in your life. One path keeps you where you are stuck in the same cycles, same habits, same frustrations. The other path, that's the path of change, growth, and becoming the person you know you're capable of being. Most people miss their chance to step onto that path. Don't let that be you. This is the moment you decide to wake up, pay attention, and take control of your life. The power of small decisions is often overlooked because we've been trained to think that change must come with thunder and lightning. We imagine a breakthrough as something grand, a moment that shakes the earth beneath our feet, when in reality, transformation often begins with the simplest choice. The decision to rise when your body screams for more sleep. The decision to put the phone down when your mind craves another distraction. The decision to do what is necessary instead of what is easy. It is in these seemingly insignificant moments that destinies are shaped. Most people underestimate the weight of small choices. They shrug them off as if they don't matter. But I want to tell you something that has the power to alter the course of your life. The little decisions you make every day are writing the story of your future. No one wakes up one morning suddenly healthy, strong, successful, or fulfilled. Those outcomes are not born in a single day. They are the harvest of daily seeds, planted through ordinary choices that over time create extraordinary results. Think about it. A man doesn't wake up in financial debt overnight. It happens slowly, from the little swipes of a card, the small purchases, the money spent on things that felt good in the moment but added no value in the long run. The same is true of health. A body doesn't collapse after one bad meal, but a lifetime of poor decisions leads to decline. In the same way, relationships don't fall apart from one disagreement. They break down through the repeated choice to stay silent instead of speaking, to stay distant instead of connecting, to hold resentment instead of offering forgiveness. And the opposite is also true. Just as small decisions can destroy, they can also build. One phone call to a friend can mend a wound that has lingered for years. One evening spent reading a chapter instead of scrolling can expand your mind. One walk around the block can begin the journey to strength and energy. Do not despise small beginnings, because great things are hidden inside of them. Science even confirms what the spirit already knows. A study published in the Harvard Business Review showed that consistent small habits create compounding results over time. Just like compound interest in a bank account, your daily choices are deposits into your future. You may not see the return immediately, but the interest is growing, the reward is building, and soon the harvest will come. That's why you cannot afford to dismiss the little things. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a person standing at a fork in the road. On the left path, they choose to snooze the alarm just 10 more minutes, day after day. They promise themselves they'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow looks exactly like today. Slowly, they build a life of regret. On the right path, that same person makes the decision to rise on time, to start the day with energy, to keep a promise to themselves. That single choice doesn't change everything instantly, but day after day, it creates discipline, confidence, and momentum. A year later, two people who began in the same place are living entirely different lives. And it all started with one small decision. Here's the truth. Every choice you make is either taking you closer to who you want to be or further away. There is no neutral ground. Every action matters. Every thought matters. Every response matters. And when you begin to honor the small things, when you begin to see them as seeds of greatness, you unlock a power that most people never discover. The power of small, intentional decisions. Here's the hard truth. Motivation is not coming to save you. That spark you're waiting for, that magical push that will suddenly make you leap into action, it isn't on the way. Too many people sit on the sidelines of their own life, convincing themselves that once they feel ready, once everything aligns, once that inner fire kicks in, then they will finally start. But let me tell you, if you keep waiting on motivation, you will wait your whole life and never begin. The reason so many people remain stuck is because they've believed the lie that motivation is the starting point. They look at people who are already successful, already disciplined, already consistent, and think, if I could just feel like they feel, I'd do the same. But what they don't see is that those people weren't motivated in the beginning either. They simply made a choice to move before they felt ready, and the movement created the motivation. Think about it. Have you ever dreaded going to the gym, dragging your feet, thinking of every excuse not to go? But the moment you got there, laced up your shoes, and pushed through that first set, something shifted. You felt stronger. You felt more alive. The very energy you thought you needed before you started showed up after you began. That's the principle of life. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. And it's not just about the gym. It's in every part of your life. The student who doesn't feel like studying but sits down anyway finds their mind engaged once the first page is turned. The parent who doesn't feel like having that hard conversation but chooses to start talking discovers healing and closeness on the other side. The dreamer who doesn't feel like working on their vision but takes the first step sees doors open that never would have appeared otherwise. Motivation is a byproduct of obedience to action. Waiting for the right moment is another trap. How many people have said, I'll start when the kids are older, when the bills are paid, when I have more time, when the season changes? But the right moment never comes, because the right moment is always now. Life doesn't wait. Opportunities don't wait. And the truth is, you don't need more time, you need more urgency. A small action today is far more powerful than a perfect plan tomorrow. You see, feelings are fickle. They rise and fall with the weather, with your circumstances, with the mood you wake up in. If you allow feelings to be the driver of your decisions, your life will always be unstable. But when you anchor your choices in commitment instead of emotion, you gain control. You decide once, and then you act on that decision whether you feel like it or not. And here's the beauty of it, the feelings eventually catch up. I remember hearing about a man who wanted to write a book but kept putting it off because he never felt inspired. Finally, he committed to writing one page every morning, no matter what. At first, the words felt forced, but soon momentum took over. Within a year, his book was complete, not because inspiration struck, but because he acted in the absence of it. That's the lesson most people miss. Discipline is stronger than motivation. Action is stronger than intention. And small, consistent steps done without waiting for the perfect feeling lead to greater change than bursts of inspiration ever could. You don't need to wait until you feel ready, because readiness is not a feeling. It is a decision. And the moment you decide, you will see that everything you've been waiting for has been waiting on you. Look around your life for a moment. Take an honest inventory. Who do you spend the majority of your time with? What voices are filling your ears day after day? What kind of conversations are you entertaining? What messages are you consuming online, on your phone, in the quiet moments when no one else is watching? Whether you realize it or not, your environment is shaping you. It is either lifting you up to higher levels of strength and purpose, or it is slowly pulling you down and keeping you bound to mediocrity. The truth is, no one is immune to influence. You may think you are strong enough to rise above the people around you, but human beings are wired to adapt. The energy of your surroundings seeps into your spirit. Social psychology has proven that we begin to mirror the habits, the language, and even the mindset of the 5 people we spend the most time with. If those 5 are complainers, if they are pessimistic, if they have settled for less than what they are capable of, then whether you notice it or not, that same spirit will begin to work its way into your decisions, into your thinking, and into your future. I once knew a young man with incredible potential. He had vision, energy, and talent that could have taken him far. But he chose to keep company with friends who had no ambition, who spent their days criticizing others, mocking hard work, and chasing temporary pleasures. At first, he thought he was strong enough to resist. But slowly, the fire inside him dimmed. His orbits changed. His dreams began to shrink until eventually he looked exactly like the people he once believed he was different from. Why? Because your environment will always outlast your willpower if you don't make a conscious decision to protect it. But the opposite is also true. I've seen people who came from broken places, people who had every reason to stay stuck. But they made one powerful choice. They surrounded themselves with people who refused to settle, people who dreamed bigger, people who pushed them to rise higher. And the change was undeniable. Their energy shifted. Their outlook grew brighter. Their actions became bolder. They started to believe in possibilities they had once thought were out of reach. Because when you align yourself with those who live with passion and determination, that energy is contagious. You begin to catch the fire. So I want to ask you directly, who in your life is holding you back? Who keeps you tethered to the ground when you're meant to soar? Who makes you feel smaller, weaker, or less capable every time you're around them? And on the other side, who in your life lifts you, challenges you, believes in you, and speaks life into your future? These are not small questions. These are the questions that determine the direction of your destiny. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is not starting something new, but walking away from what is familiar. It may mean limiting your time with those who drain you. It may mean unfollowing voices online that poison your mind with negativity. It may mean seeking out new circles where people are pursuing growth, where vision is alive, where action is celebrated instead of mocked. Your environment is the soil of your life. If the soil is toxic, no matter how good the seed inside you is, it will struggle to grow. But if the soil is rich and healthy, your potential will flourish in ways you never imagined. That's why this choice matters so deeply. Who you surround yourself with today is a prophecy of who you will become tomorrow. Fear is the reason so many people never take the first step. It whispers in their ear, reminding them of every failure they've ever experienced, every voice that told them they weren't enough, every possibility of what could go wrong. Fear paralyzes dreams before they're ever born. Fear convinces people to stay where it's comfortable, even when that comfort is slowly draining the life out of them. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. These fears sit like giants in the path of destiny. And yet listen closely, because here's the truth that can change everything. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is proof that you are standing on the edge of something that matters. Think about the first time you ever drove a car. Your hands were probably sweating, your heart racing, your thoughts filled with worry about what could go wrong. You were nervous, maybe even terrified. But you turned the key, you pressed the gas, and eventually the shaking stopped. Today you may drive without a second thought. What was once terrifying became second nature, not because the fear disappeared on its own, but because you pushed through it until it no longer held power over you. Fear always shows up before growth. Every person you admire, every leader, athlete, or entrepreneur you look up to has felt fear. Do not fool yourself into thinking they were fearless. They were not. The difference is that they learned how to move forward in spite of fear. They didn't let it make their decisions for them. That's the key. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action in the face of it. I remember hearing a story of a young woman who had a dream to start her own business. For years she hesitated because the fear of failure clung to her like chains. She worried about what her family would think if she failed, what her friends would say if her dream crumbled, how she would recover if it all went wrong. But one day she realized that her fear was not a sign she was on the wrong path, but a sign she was standing in front of something meaningful. She took a deep breath, made the leap, and though she stumbled in the beginning, she eventually built a thriving company that impacted thousands of lives. Fear had been her loudest companion, but it did not get the final say. The same is true for you. That fear you feel when you think about making a change, that tightening in your chest when you imagine stepping into the unknown, it's not a warning to stop. It's a signal that you are standing in front of growth. Fear will try to shout louder than your vision. It will try to magnify every possible failure while hiding every potential success. But you have a choice. You can surrender to its voice, or you can walk forward and prove it wrong. Fear often disguises itself as protection. It tells you to stay where it's safe, stay where it's predictable, stay where you won't risk embarrassment or pain. But safety is a prison if it keeps you from becoming who you're meant to be. The comfort zone may feel secure, but it's the place where dreams go to die. Growth requires stepping beyond it, and fear will always be waiting at the border between where you are and where you're meant to go. So the next time you feel fear rise up inside you, don't run from it. Don't shrink back. Recognize it for what it is, an indicator that you're on the path to something significant. Let it remind you that your life is about to expand. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is the evidence that you're standing at the doorway of change, and the only question is whether you will step through. Perfectionism is a silent killer of dreams. It whispers softly, almost convincingly, "You're not ready yet. Wait until you have more time. Wait until you have more money. Wait until you know more." And so you wait, and while you are waiting, the days slip into weeks, the weeks into months. And before long years have passed, and that dream you once carried with fire in your heart has grown cold, the truth is, you will never have all the answers. You will never feel 100% ready. Life doesn't hand us a certificate of perfection before allowing us to step forward. It invites us to begin where we are with what we have, even if it's messy, even if it feels incomplete. Progress is what transforms a life, not perfection. It's the act of putting one foot in front of the other, however wobbly it may feel, that begins to build momentum. Think about a child learning to walk. If that child waited until he was certain he would never fall, he would never take a step. But he doesn't wait. He stumbles, he wobbles, he falls flat, and then he pulls himself up again. Every step, shaky as it may be, is still progress, and in time, what once seemed impossible becomes effortless. The same principle applies to every dream, every calling, every vision within you. The messy first draft that you feel embarrassed to share, the shaky first video where your voice cracks, the awkward first sales call where your words stumble, these are not signs of failure. These are signs of progress. They are proof that you had the courage to begin, and beginning is the hardest part. Too many people disqualify themselves because their first attempt wasn't perfect. But nobody's first attempt ever is. Thomas Edison, the man who gave the world the light bulb, didn't succeed on the first try. History tells us it took him over 1,000 failed experiments before he finally found the formula that worked. Imagine if he had demanded perfection on the first attempt. Imagine if he had quit after failure number 10, or 100, or 500. The world might still be sitting in darkness, but he understood that every failure was not an ending, it was progress. Every mistake was information. Every setback was one step closer to the solution. That is the power of progress. I once knew a young woman who dreamed of starting a business, but she kept holding back. She told herself she needed to take more courses, read more books, gather more certifications. She was waiting for the day when she would finally feel fully prepared. Years passed, and the business never started. One day she realized that the only thing stopping her was her demand for perfection. She finally chose to start small, offering her services in an imperfect way. It was rough at first, mistakes were made, lessons were learned. But within a year, she was thriving, not because she had waited until everything was flawless, but because she had dared to begin. That is the trap of perfectionism. It convinces you that starting small is weakness, when in truth starting small is the bravest thing you can do, because progress compounds. One page written each day becomes a book. One conversation each week becomes a network. One small step each morning becomes a life of discipline. Progress doesn't always look impressive in the moment, but given time, it creates results that perfectionists never taste because they never began. The lie of perfection is that you'll be safe if you wait. But the cost of waiting is far greater than the cost of imperfection. While you wait for the perfect moment, opportunities pass by. While you wait for perfect knowledge, others are out there learning through experience. While you wait for perfect confidence, someone else is building theirs by simply doing it scared. The secret is not to chase perfection, but to embrace progress. Progress is movement, progress is growth, progress is momentum. When you commit to progress, you give yourself permission to be a learner, to be a beginner, to be human. And in that space, you discover that you are capable of far more than you ever imagined. So do not despise the small beginnings. Do not curse the awkward first steps. Celebrate them because they are evidence that you are on the path. Every imperfect action is better than a perfect intention left undone. Progress will take you where perfection never can. Start today, however unready you feel, and watch how small steps turn into giant leaps. Here's the most important point you need to hear today. Your future self is counting on you. The decisions you make right now in this very season of your life are shaping the person you will become tomorrow, next year, and 10 years from now. Imagine yourself a decade into the future. Picture that version of you. Will they look back and thank you for the choices you made today, or will they shake their head in regret because you stayed stuck when you could have moved forward? That picture of who you are becoming should not feel distant or imaginary. It is real, and it is being written by your actions in this very moment. Studies show that when people vividly imagine their future self, they begin to make better decisions in the present. Why? Because suddenly the choices you're making today stop being abstract. You realize that every meal you eat, every dollar you spend, every conversation you have, every habit you form, is shaping the kind of life you are going to live tomorrow. When you allow yourself to see the future clearly, when you feel the weight of what's ahead, you begin to take the present more seriously. Think about it. If you imagine yourself in 10 years full of health, full of strength, full of energy, then the decision to take care of your body today suddenly matters more. If you imagine yourself in 10 years financially stable, free from the weight of debt, then the decision to save a little more and spend a little less today takes on new meaning. If you imagine yourself in 10 years surrounded by love, peace, and strong relationships, then the decision to forgive, to connect, and to nurture those bonds right now feels far more urgent. Every choice is a building block, and your future self is the house you are constructing. I once heard about a man who made a habit of writing letters to his future self. Every year he would sit down and write what he hoped his life would look like in 10 years. At first, it seemed like just an exercise, but something remarkable happened. Because he had a clear picture of the man he wanted to become. He started living differently in the present. He made choices that aligned with that vision. He stopped wasting time on things that didn't matter. He invested in learning, in his health, in his family. 10 years later, he opened the letters and realized he had become the very person he had imagined, not by accident, but by design. You see, your future self is not a stranger, it's you. And that person is depending on the decisions you make today. Imagine meeting them face to face. What would they say to you? Would they say, "Thank you for taking care of me, for building habits that made me strong, for having the courage to take risks that paid off"? Or would they say, "Why did you waste so much time? Why did you let fear and procrastination steal our potential? Why did you settle when you knew there was more inside of us?" This is not just about the big things. It's about the small, ordinary, everyday choices. Because over time, those choices compound into a future you cannot escape. The question is whether that future will be one of pride or regret. 10 years from now, the excuses that feel so valid today will not matter. You won't be thinking about how tired you were, how scared you felt, or how busy life seemed. You will only see the results of what you did or did not do. That's why discipline matters. That's why growth matters. That's why courage matters. Not for today alone, but for the person you are becoming. Every time you choose discipline over laziness, you are depositing strength into your future. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you are building a wiser version of yourself. Every time you choose courage over fear, you are setting your future self free to live boldly. So let me ask you again 10 years from now, will that version of you thank you or resent you? The answer depends on the choice you make in this moment. Your future self is watching, waiting, depending on you. Don't let them down. So if you only watch one video today, let this be the one that sparks your turning point. Don't just nod your head and move on. Take one action today, however small, that pulls you toward the life you want. Your decisions matter, your environment matters, your courage matters. And most importantly, you matter. This is your wake-up call. Don't hit snooze on your own life.